This episode is brought to you by 1-800-MOM-WORRY, the 1-800 advice line for teenagers that need advice. Your religious moms are sometimes too busy proselytizing and protesting gay funerals to answer the call. That's where 1-800-MOMMY-WORRY comes in. Just call in toll-free and ask for advice or permission to experience the warm, matronly concern that only real moms can give. Just listen to these real calls. Mom, I think it's time that I should start wearing a bra. Hey, Mom, can I go out with some friends to the movies tonight? I saw a skirt at the mall. It's $50, which seems like a lot, but it really looks nice. Mom, can we talk? I've never felt at home in my body, and I think I'm going to transition into living as a woman. Can I have some ice cream? Call 1-800-MOMMY-WORRY today.
Is this a metal thing?
Yes. Little taste.
David, what is this?
It's pretty thick.
Great.
I have to kill a lot of people. Just tell me what you want me to fuck.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits. Mistletoe alert. This is backcountry.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Ugo be pregnant?
Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, she's such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso.
Hello, and welcome to Horror Movie Talk. Your panel of expert hosts each week are me. I'm Dr. Bryce Hanson. I hold a PhD in spookology. And across from the Washington State sits Professor David Day, the foremost expert in scare bleeps. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible.
That's right, Bryce. Today we got a great episode for you guys. We're going to be talking about one of the biggest tentpole classics ever to hit horror.
Carrie.
That's right.
After much complications, technically. If you wonder why we change shirts halfway through the episode, don't worry about it. So before we get into it, go to our website, horrormovietalk.com. There you'll find links to all the things. We appreciate you doing that. We especially appreciate our patrons. Go to patreon.com/horrormovietalk to learn of all the perks and benefits that you can get by joining that. We post new episodes every Wednesday. Call 682-253-4468 to leave us a voicemail or if you have any questions for us. If you're new to the show, we start out by giving a brief synopsis and review, and then our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being miserable, and 5 being an average film that hits all the expected marks, and then 10 being so good it transcends genre boundaries. After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. So if you haven't seen Carrie yet, you're behind by about 50 years. But if you want to wait, you can skip the spoiler section until you've seen it. Later on, we'll be playing a game called Horror Movie Whores, and where we listen to your voicemails. So yeah, we went and watched the original 1976 Carrie, and it was bloody good fun. Here's the trailer. How great was that trailer?
I loved it. I just loved it. I got to tell you, buddy.
Carrie can be found on Hoopla for free or available for rent elsewhere, and I guess on Tubi. That's supported. In this film adaptation of Stephen King's first novel, Carrie White, played by Sissy Spacek, is a super sheltered teenage girl being raised by a religious fanatic mom while going to high school. In the first scene, we see Carrie experience her first menstruation in the girls' locker room, and she is utterly unequipped and humiliated. She's relentlessly bullied by the other girls, and as a result, they are punished, and some seek revenge. I guess just one, really. The film shows Carrie's journey from being an outcast to being a self-actualized young woman, albeit in a tragic way. All along, the audience is privy and sympathetic to the train wreck slowly unfolding. Carrie was a surprise hit in 1976. Off a budget of $1.6 million, it grossed over $30 million in the box office. Brian De Palma, the director, skillfully adapted Stephen King's novel to the screen. There are several other adaptations of the same novel, but this 1976 version is the only one that is unforgettable. It walks the line between dark comedy, horror, melodrama, all successfully. The over-the-top cruelty and humiliation portrayed in the film doesn't seem ridiculous in the setting of high school because they represent the inner, distorted world that every teenager experiences in high school. It's the cinematic equivalent of a teenager's imaginary audience. Some of the characters are more caricatures than people, but the one that counts most is Carrie, and all the others serve to make hers compelling and believable. Her reactions and countenance seems insane until you meet her fanatic mother, and the pieces all fall into place.
What does countenance mean?
Your appearance.
I know, but I'm asking so that other people will know.
Just like your overall vibe and appearance, you know?
Oh, why didn't you just say vibe?
The film deserves its place as one of the most iconic horror films of all time. It's enjoyable and unforgettable. It's unique, strange, and somehow extremely relatable. I really loved it. I don't see anything wrong with it, even though it's at times bizarre and at times like it's not. I don't know, everything that De Palma does, or every decision he makes in it to like modify the storyline or like exaggerate stuff seems to really land. So I give it a 10 out of 10.
This just in. Bryce Hanson thinks Carrie is good. Yeah, no. How many times would you say you've seen this movie throughout your life?
I mean, at least 2 now. I think only 2. I think I've watched it before and then for this.
I think I've caught this, bits and pieces of this enough to have seen it maybe 5 times, maybe 5 or 6 times throughout my life. Mostly broken up by TBS, and every time it's just off-putting, it's the casting in it is strange in a lot of different ways. It's great. The vibe that it gives is one of it's really 70s-y, like, I mean deeply. Like when I think of the 70s, I think of this, Texas Chainsaw, and some lesbian vampire movies, this is so perfectly encapsulates the 70s in terms of cinema. It's kind of crazy. It may be like the poster child for 70s cinema in my head. Brian De Palma somehow sits really back way far. Like you can't tell. It's weird because as you're watching, it doesn't feel like a bunch of directorial choices. It feels just like a really solid movie that kind of like waffles in and out of like dream states, and especially towards the end. And and it's weird to think that this is the same guy who a couple years later did Scarface.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's in the recording that's actually going to get salvaged for video, but yeah, I think we talk about this later about like his place as a director. He comes up with the same cohort with Spielberg, George Lucas, Martin Scorsese, and Francis Ford Coppola. Like, they all appear at the exact same time, and they're all friends and are very supportive of each other's work. And out of those names, Brian De Palma is the one that is least talked about as an auteur director with impact in Hollywood, because he's not supposedly not nearly as successful, but also he has some huge movies that are iconic, but they're not attached to him as a director. Like, you talk about the Godfather, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Francis Ford Coppola. That's what he did. You talk about, Goodfellas, or well, any number of things that Spielberg did, or Star Wars, and it's all like, you all associate him with the director. They brought that into being. When people talk about The Untouchables, do they talk about Brian De Palma? Like, when they talk about the first Mission Impossible, is it, or Scarface, or Carlito's Way? Like, all of which are fantastic, like, standout movies. But Brian De Palma isn't, like, talked about as, a great director, and he is. He's fantastic.
I think this is not like me joking or anything. I think Mission to Mars somehow soiled his legacy tremendously.
He was one of these guys that started out very art house and was like very much was doing a lot of art films, and it took a while for him to like find commercial success, and this is one of the first like really successful, like widely successful. Before he had like some others, Body Double or something like that, but just never had like huge commercial success. And there's some in his career, there's some like huge commercial successes and some legendary flops. Like, he is responsible for what a lot of critics think is one of the biggest flops of all time, which was the Bonfire, the Vanities. And I read there's a book about that production that's really fascinating. If you want to learn about like film production and what it's like to make a movie in Hollywood, that book, it's called The Devil's, what is it called?
Wow. Bonfire to the Vanities had Tom Hanks,
The Devil's
Bruce
Candy.
Willis.
Yeah.
Had Tom Hanks, Bruce Willis, Kim Cattrall, Morgan Freeman in it in 1990. That's crazy.
It's a huge, well, yeah, so this is the thing. The film was based off of a Tom Wolfe novel. And I don't know that much about Tom Wolfe, but apparently like the novel is very heady and very like dry, and just portrays like the rich people characters in it as like very dry and has a lot of wit around like how it treats the topic and stuff. And portraying that in a Hollywood movie didn't translate. But yeah, this book called The Devil's Candy, The Anatomy of a Hollywood Fiasco outlines like the full production of it from beginning to end. And it's fascinating. And one of the main takeaways is like Bruce Willis is a douche. and just the optimism in the beginning of a production of like a huge property, and the optimism throughout, and like the compromises and stuff that happens in the middle of production, and the choices for the source material and how to interpret it for film seem all reasonable, and then in the end like experiencing the flop and like how much of a pariah it makes the director. It's really interesting.
So, but back to Carrie, like this movie uniquely is capable of making me feel so icky and gross. But just with vibe, and with, character reactions and with, poor Carrie. Like, you're talking about this poor girl gets it from every angle. There's no respite in her life. She is awkward at school and she gets made fun of. Even the teacher who's trying to help her smacks her around in her deepest, darkest, saddest moment, which is finding out that women menstruate in a public girls' shower, and having a freak out. Her teacher hits her. And then she goes home, and her mom blames her for being a girl. And it's just so nasty and portrays high school, but also like religion, like a lot of like personal religious life in such a raw light that, I mean, it just at my core makes me feel icky and gross. And at its core, it is a revenge movie that is so satisfying and could be set to metal music, just like none other. Like, this one hits just right, in terms of just being phenomenally satisfying in revenge. And then the end is so dreamlike and weird and comes in with this crazy jump scare that is still so effective. Like, I don't know how they did it, but they did it to me again. Like, this watch through, I freaked out at the end. I was like, whoa, oh no. It's great. This is a crazy movie. I think this is one of the very few Stephen King adaptations that Stephen King was like, that's a good adaptation.
Yeah. Well, Stephen King is really a cheerleader for anyone that is going to adapt his work. I don't think, in the rare exception, like, he wasn't a fan of Kubrick's adaptation. Yeah, so what score did you give it?
Oh, easy. Yeah. No doubt. 10 out of 10 for sure. Yeah.
Well, before we get into spoilers, we should mention that you might have just heard some commercials, and you're just hold on to your butts because we're going to promote some stuff right now. But you should know you don't need to listen to it every week. You can just go to our patreon.com/horror movie talk and subscribe at a certain level that gives you no commercials and early access to episodes. So do that.
Do it. I dare you. Do it.
Price of a cup of coffee, you can just not experience commercials.
Oh, you could be a good person and support the show that gives you a bunch of free content every single week and get a bunch of cool shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, for just mere like a quarter a day, you can get HMT ad free. Also, go check out our website, horrormovietalk.com. Our shop is at horrormovietalk.com/shop. There we got logo tees and other stuff you can buy and support the show. Go to Instagram and hit up Dustin Goebel. He's at dgoebel00. That's DGOEBEL00. And you can hit up for commissions. He makes all the awesome artwork for us for each episode, and we really appreciate him and ask you to support him. Call 682-253-4468 to leave us a voicemail, or if you have any questions. And with that, we'll get into spoilers.
I'm going to change my clothes real quick, okay?
Okay. See you in a minute.
Okay.
And we're back. On a different platform.
Listeners, let me take you on a journey. let me paint a picture with a brush for you. For weeks now, Bryce and I do not live in the same place anymore. Therefore, we are in different places. That's how not living in the same place works. And we've been dealing with some minor technical difficulties with recording the podcast. And so we're just happy campers, rocking and rolling.
So we're trying a new platform mid-recording. So good luck, Fart, on editing
We're having a good time.
So anyways, we left off, if it sounds weird, David was talking about the cast, and then we both froze and we rage quitted. So anyways, let's talk about the cast here. So Nancy Allen plays Chris Hargensen, and she's like the main antagonist. Some other people you might recognize. PJ Souls plays Norma. She's the one with the red hat at all times, apparently. And you might recognize from Halloween, the original Halloween. She's the girl who gets stabbed.
Yeah, by the way, Chris Hargensen is in all the RoboCops. She's the...
Nancy Allen.
Yeah, sorry.
Nancy Allen also married Brian De Palma after this movie, and is in a lot of his movies, actually. John Travolta, of course. He was just coming off of Welcome Back, Kotter. I think he was actually... It's during the run of Welcome Back, Kotter, where he got his original fame. Pre-Grease.
Yeah, this is all pre-Grease. It's important to know. You'll remember him from such big hits as The Devil's Rain and Medical Center.
Then other people, maybe Sissy Spacek. I mean, she's in a lot of stuff. She's still working.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of casts that married people, I believe it was... who was it? Steven Spielberg apparently was on set. Like, so they're filming this movie, and this kind of tells you, like, we're talking about that kind of cohort of auteur directors, and I guess Brian De Palma calls up Steven Spielberg. He's like, "Hey, you should come by. We got a lot of hot girls out here." And he like comes by while they're filming and meets one of his wives. I think Amy Irving, maybe.
He comes by and he's like, "My wife."
He marries someone from the cast and actually has a son with her. So lots of intermingling going on.
Yeah, this was definitely, I mean, so much of Hollywood is using full-grown 30-year-old adults or 25-year-old adults to play, 17-year-old kids. So, and this is definitely not immune to that.
Right. Let me find out which Steven.
You have a mention in here in your notes of the De Palma using psycho stings, the audio stings,
right.
Lots of read throughout to
right.
denote Carrie's power whenever she uses it, which is super effective. The way he uses it, he's got those levels turned way up.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting. Like that's from Psycho, and he's like self-admittedly like a student of Alfred Hitchcock, and several of his first movies were also scored by that same composer that did Psycho. Like he did the last movies that those composers did, that composer did, was for Brian De Palma's movies, to the point where like he literally died a couple days after the final session. I think maybe for Obsession. I can't remember which movie was the last one, but yeah, definitely loves that type of music. Another interesting thing about the cast I was going to mention before I move on from that was the casting for this movie was concurrent with George Lucas casting Star Wars. And so he basically called up George and was like, hey, let's cast our movies together. And so basically any rejects from Star Wars, like Brian De Palma got. So a lot of these actors and actresses also auditioned for Star Wars. I'm pretty sure John Travolta did. I think Nancy Allen
Who John
was up for
Travolta play? Chewbacca? Hey.
he'd play Han. Like,
Oh shit, he would. Oh man. Yeah, that's like some sort of weird alternate
hey, I'm not a nerf herder.
It's some sort of weird alternate universe, like reality kind of shit, where it's like
Yeah.
George Harrison is not Han Solo. Like, dang.
Yeah. Also, Sissy Spacek. Originally, he wanted De Palma wanted to cast Amy Irving as Carrie. Like, she was like pretty much slated for it, and then Sissy Spacek asked if she could audition, and he knew Sissy Spacek. Like, she was the girlfriend of like his set designer in, I think it was Phantom of the something, this weird musical movie. But she was just like production staff, and she asked to audition, and the day of the audition was going to be over a commercial that she was going to record. She basically asked Brian De Palma, like, should I audition for your movie or should I go to this commercial? Because, you know, she would be paid for that work as opposed to like have the possibility. And he even told her, like, you should probably go do the commercial because we're pretty much almost decided on this other actress. And apparently she like really worked really hard, read the book, and decided to do the audition, and she blew everyone away.
That's crazy. Did you know Sissy Spacek's cousin is Rip Torn?
Really?
Isn't that fucking wild?
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Dude, Rip Torn has one of the best parts in Deep Space Nine. Like, he's in
Deep Space Nine?
Oh yeah, he's like 4 seasons of Deep Space Nine. Yeah. And very prominent throughout. Like, yeah, it's great. I was like, whose voice? Because he plays a Klingon, and so you're like, whose fucking voice is that? You're like, that sounds like Rip Torn, and sure enough,
it'd be great if he was a Vulcan. He's like, that's not logical.
that is not logical.
I don't experience emotions.
No, yeah, they had to make him a Klingon because all he experiences is emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. I mean, Klingons were probably based on Rip Torn. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, the casting was interesting, and Sissy Spacek, apparently they, like, the production, or the, what do you call it? United Artists or whatever is like, she's too pretty to play Carrie, and it's kind of interesting. They do a real good job of making Sissy look really frumpy and like not notable, and then have like a glow up towards the end with the prom. You're like, I always thought Sissy Spacek looked kind of weird and frumpy because I think I associate her with the early part of the film. She's got, you know, we talked about Anya Taylor-Joy on the last episode with the menu. I guess it's not the last episode, but and she's kind of similar, got a real unique look. But yeah, when she is at the prom, you're like, oh yeah, she is a very pretty woman.
Well, it's not just like the makeup, you know, or anything like that. It's her. Like, she really does an excellent, like, a lot of that quote frumpy look is just looking hunted, like looking like the bottom of the food chain in high school. Like, she embodies that, like, that super trodden upon kid so well that a lot of the mannerisms is enough to just make you go, oh, you sweetie, like, oh, you poor thing. I remember high school and like, oh my God, like we got to get into this thing where high school and middle school were just like the scariest parts of life. Like, I don't have any idea how to make things better around this, but holy shit. Like, the just hate and the narcissism and the just the unbridled cruelty of that time is so perfectly captured in this amplified version of this whole thing in this movie. It feels like PTSD watching this movie for me. It's like, oh no, these kids are popular and oh, they're hatching some plan against me, and like, oh, it's so gross. Does any of that get brought up?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like kids at that age, like a huge part of that trauma and like all the difficulties that arise around middle school and high school is around the imaginary audience. And kids think that what they do is perceived at like a hyper aware level from other people at all times. And so you're mortified by things that are just no one really cares about, but all it takes is like a side comment or just like you're wearing those shoes, and then you're just devastated and you can't leave the house for a week. Like, I mean, not to say that there's not bullies and kids can't have a hard time, but I mean, I remember middle school, like that was the time when I was like seriously considering like homeschooling. I was like, can I get my mom to homeschool me? Like I am so miserable and depressed at all times. And it's not like I was super bullied. It was like, I just felt that imaginary audience, and there was enough like comments on my weight or whatever that it just devastated me. And like I hated going to school and being around people. And again, if I think back on it, it's not like anyone beat me up. It's not like there was a group of people that focused their efforts of bullying on me or anything. And I had friends, like I had a good group, wasn't super awkward outside of, just being normal, young, awkward. But yeah, even me, it was like the most mortifying, devastating part of my life, and that's just a feature. And that's like, if I talk to my wife, she taught at high school and middle school, and that is like a really important thing that teachers are aware of. And especially difficult in things like band or choir, where they're like, they don't want to make a sound or be judged by anyone. And you're trying to overcome that.
Yeah, and I mean, in this movie, so that's heightened because we get a look into her home life, which is equally as alienating. Like, her mom is a psychopath, a religious extremist, and has no love for Carrie at all. No love,
Right.
Zero.
She's getting it from all ends. I mean, before we move on from the first scene, like, so she has her period in this locker room, and she's unequipped with how to, and it's kind of ridiculous. Like, yeah, if you start bleeding, probably your first thing wouldn't be to run up to people and rub it on their shirts to get help. But she's like completely unequipped and shocked.
She's
and
having
like,
a panic attack.
Yeah, she's having a panic attack. And the girls are like, throwing towels and tampons at her, telling her to plug it up. And then even the gym teacher comes over and she's like slapping her. It's like the scene out of Airplane when there's the line of people slapping the pull yourself together.
Yeah.
So even the gym teacher, which is later shown as like a very
sympathetic,
empathetic character to Carrie, and even her, she's like pull yourself together, you insane teenager. And then so that explains half of it, and then the other half is like you said at home, her mother is like a actual religious psychopath.
Yeah, like a narcissist and a psychopath, like a real a Machiavellian character, like someone who will do anything it takes to manipulate you into whatever her devices. just fucking insane. Like every part of this poor girl's life is hellish. And
like her mother is superstitious to the point. Like that's the thing, is like it's generational. Like you kind of fill in the gaps of like, well, what was her mother like? What's grandma doing? Because her mother like thought basically, had thoughts that having a period was, a sign of sin, and that if you were sinless, you wouldn't have this curse come upon you, because she reads in Genesis, how it was a curse to womanhood. And then also later you find out at the very end, like that she was, she describes it as basically marital rape, that she only had sex once and she did not like it, and she viewed it as sinful, and she never had sex again. Shockingly, her husband left her after that. But just all of this trauma and these ideas around sexuality is generational and creates like a horrible environment to be raised as a teenager, to the point where it's like actual like what do you call it, abuse, like religious abuse. She shoves her in a closet to pray for forgiveness for having a period, and she's like got this weird shrine to Saint Sebastian, and it's revealed like that there's no her mom is weirdly enough. Okay, so I have a little bit, I don't want to speak way out of turn, but there is this thing where some women really just hate women. I don't know what that is, but my mom has been disparaging towards femininity generally at times, consistently, and I don't know what that is, but it's not good. And there is a monologue where Carrie's mom explains how there is no way to win as a woman. Like, you are bad. Like, that you're inherently evil because you are a woman. Because the Bible, etc. Like, it's not really a logical like tie. It's some religious fanatical bullshit that she's like, she's carrying from a generational standpoint. But there's no way for Carrie to win. It's horrible. It's the worst. Yeah, and so that's like, I mean, as the movie goes on, where you cheer for her, you're rooting for like overcoming all those obstacles. So as a result of this like situation in the locker room in the beginning of the movie, the gym teacher punishes all the other girls. So Carrie is sent home for like a week, and all the other girls have to serve detention under the gym teacher. And this is like one of Aaron's favorite scenes, like the workout detention scene. But it's all the girls like doing push-ups, and it was like a training sequence from Rocky. And so it was either that or you don't get to go to prom was the punishment. And so Chris Hargensen, the character in the movie, refuses to participate in this punishment and is banned from the prom. And it seems like she like gives up at the very end. Like, you could have just stuck it out for like a couple more hours. And she's like, no. And so she's banned from the prom. And so she decides to get revenge on her and starts hatching the scheme with John Travolta to get her to help. And it's kind of touched on. You don't really, I mean, if this is your only exposure to Carrie, you don't really know what's going to happen. But I mean, you do. But they're shown like doing weird stuff, like killing pigs and putting this bucket of blood somewhere in the prom stage. And it's not really very clear until the very end of what they're doing, which is they're going to dump this bucket of blood on Carrie. So that's all going on. I love this. One of my favorite scenes is John Travolta and Nancy Allen at the drive-in movie theater, and she's recruiting him, which is the easiest thing to do probably for a teenage guy, which is she just gives him a blowjob.
Yeah.
And it's such a funny scene because, number one, it's implied that she's going down on him, but the entire time she's saying his name.
Billy.
It's like, Billy.
Billy.
Billy. And he's leaning back. He's like, hey, I'm Vinny Barbarino, hey. And, but she's like, keeps saying Billy, and I'm like asking myself, like, is she just, every time she comes up, she's like, I mean, I'm sorry, this is the one, like, unbelievable part on Brian De Palma's part, because it should have sounded like, Ryan, Ryan, Ryan.
Yeah, dude.
Right? Am I wrong?
Don't stop. That's hot.
And then he's like about to come, and she says, I hate Carrie White. Which, I'm going to say, ladies, try it.
Yeah.
Give your significant other a blowjob, and right as he's like grabbing your head and being like, I'm gonna, just say, I hate Carrie White, and just see what his reaction is. You know?
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, and then he's just goes out and destroys every copy of Carrie that he can find.
Right.
Yeah, I love. Okay, so it's so weird to see John Travolta as a really evil, like a high schooler, because he's so John Travolta, and I don't know. There's just something very strange because it's a real kind of Grease kind of role, He is kind of this guy or American Graffiti kind of feeling kind of role, like he's cruising the strip with this girl, he's getting a blowjob at the Funyun Shack or whatever the hell, and then she's like, let's commit a heinous act of cruel violence, and he's like, hey. It's like, wait, what?
All right.
Go murder some pigs. Hey, gonna ruin this girl's whole fucking life. Got a blowjob. It's like,
hey. Yeah. The other thing, I mean, I think it like portrays it pretty well in terms of like young teenager cruelty. That it's just, they're not giving a lot of thought into it. They're not thinking about what impact this is going to have on their victim. There's like, this will be hilarious. You'll be hilarious.
We'll do a horrible thing to another person for our own entertainment.
Hey.
And you're just like, yeah, that I remember doing that shit as a high schooler and having that shit done and being like, to you and just being like, I'm a person, and other people being like, ha ha ha, you're not a person. And like that like weird dichotomy of like, somehow the next, like, you could have some fucking horrific, you could have a bucket of blood dumped on your head and be like horribly humiliated, and then the next day your friend would be like, I don't really like Lauren that much. You'd be like, let's dump a bucket of blood on her head. It's like, what kind of fucking psychopath? And the answer is high school kids.
It's like, all the rage.
It's just they're fucking lunatics. They're not real people yet.
Right.
Yeah. It's.
So that's happening, and then while that's all going on, Sue Snell, played by Amy Irving, she's shown. See, this is where it was a little confusing. Even though this isn't my first time watching it, I couldn't really remember. But Sue Snell, one of the girls, convinces her boyfriend to go to prom with Carrie.
Yeah, Tommy Ross.
And Tommy is shown as like, he kind of likes or protects Carrie a little bit in one of these scenes in the classroom where she thought that his poem that he wrote was beautiful, and they were making fun of her, and he like told kids to stop. So they're portrayed as sympathetic, but even then I'm like, I was confused whether they were in on it or not. Like, I was like, is this part of the setup? And I guess I missed it because it wasn't obvious until the very end in the prom when Sue Snell like looks at the string and figures it out too late.
No. Sue and Tommy are not in on it at all. And furthermore, Tommy is the most believable. Tommy and Sue are the most believable characters in this whole thing, or they're what make the movie work for me the most, because Sue has is of all this comic gallery of horrible girls who lash out at Carrie at the start. One of them, Sue, feels empathetic when appealed to by Miss Collins. She's like, oh yeah, we did a horrible thing to just a sweet girl who didn't do anything, like, and she's like, you know what, I have to do something about that, and she implores her boyfriend Tommy to go to prom with Carrie, and in so doing, Tommy's like, he's like a normal kind of guy. He's like, look, I want to go with you. This is my prom too, like, why? I don't care really, but he's convinced to care, and eventually he sees the humanity in Carrie and wants to have a good time with her and show her a good time. And yeah, it is, as the viewer, you're like, is Tommy gonna do her dirty? Is he gonna wrong her? He never does. He's just a nice guy. And if it weren't for that, the whole movie would be unbearable. It would be unbearable cruelty. You could just take the name Carrie and just make it unbearable cruelty, and it wouldn't be nearly as watchable, because it would just be too hard to sit through. I think the inclusion of Sue and Tommy are like the most important part of this, because they are just this little sliver of kindness and empathy that you're not sure about. Like, you're kind of like, are they going to hurt her? And they try not to.
I think a lot of the changes in the movie from the book are kind of related to who's sympathetic and who's not in the story. Like, I think from what I understand, that in the book, the gym teacher just kind of hates Carrie and is really cruel to her throughout. And in the movie, obviously she slaps her in the beginning, but also she's like kind of on Carrie's side, and she's like kind to her at prom and very supportive. But even then is killed at the end. So she gets invited to prom. I think part of the reason why I was so confused is that the gym teacher is kind of interrogating Sue and Tommy about why they're doing this, and Sue is kind of not giving any reason for it. I'm like, well, why is she being like sly about it? And Tommy is like, I don't know, I'm just here for the ride. But they obviously, from like Tommy's interaction with her, he's like, he's a stand-up guy. Like, he he does care about her and wants her to feel comfortable and wants to give her like, confidence to the point where like it looks like he's starting to really like her, towards the end. So they're all getting ready for prom. Carrie is making her dress a la Cinderella, and her mom is being wicked a la Cinderella. Some great, probably the best, one of the best scenes from the movie is her trying to convince Carrie not to go. And she's like, I guess in the book, like she was wearing reds, which kind of makes her comment in the movie a non sequitur, where she's like, red, it had to be red. And then Carrie's like, it's pink.
Are you like, what's the matter? Can you? I think there's some allusions to, I don't know. I kind of took that to mean as her mom just sees red, like I read into it a little bit, probably too much. I wanted to, before we get too much further, I wanted to go back to Miss Collins as being another one of the three characters that make the whole thing pop and work. Like, yeah, you're saying, you're like, well, she's interrogating her, and yeah, her slapping her really puts you off. You're like, why did she hit her? And the answer is like 70s, like kind of like it was okay to hit anybody back then.
We weren't pussies back then. That's the real.
Yeah, you can literally assault people all day long as they're significantly weaker than you. As long as you're an adult hitting a kid, that's good. We endorse that. Anyway, but yeah, no, Miss Collins, you're also like, you know how people describe sympathy versus empathy? They're like, sympathy is just feeling bad for someone, and empathy is feeling for someone, is like putting yourself in those shoes. Miss Collins, I feel like, is a sympathetic person, and Tommy and Sue are empathetic people. And so you get a little bit of this mommying, like Miss Collins is kind of like is like a mom who cares, but is still a mom, and is just like, yeah, it's a little bit, it's complex. It's an interesting thing in this other, like, I don't know. I get this feeling that maybe it's just my own head. Like, I just can't, I have a hard time taking 70s movies as being, as able to be like enlightened, but it's really, an enlightenment, like it just feels so gross and grimy, and it's weird to have all this like intricacy in this gross, grimy thing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, yeah, so anyway, I just want to say that.
Yeah. So she's getting ready for prom, and she's like dressed up, and her mom's like all, and some great lines in addition to that one where she's just like, how do I look, Mommy? And she's like, you got your dirty pillows out.
I can see your dirty pillows. And immediately I turned to my Carrie on the couch, and I was like, I can see your dirty pillows. And she's like, like that. Yeah. She's getting crazy with it.
And I think, yeah, apparently, I just looked it up. Apparently, Dirty Pillows was originated by Stephen King in the Carrie novel. He was the originator of Dirty Pillows. So, I mean, just for that, he should be lauded. And then it goes to the prom. We see some of what's her name? Chris's henchmen getting involved in stealing the election. Just like these last two elections in America.
Yeah, the last like 25 elections in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all the elections.
Infowars.com.
And so it's set up that Carrie and Tommy are going to win prom king / queen. And they do. And then the finale of the movie that everyone knows, like, it's no secret how it's on the fucking poster how it ends, which is the Carrie and Tommy win. The bucket of blood pours onto Carrie, and they all laugh at her. And
there's this really dreamlike quality that sets in Prom where there's dancing and it's spinning, and then I threw up 4 or 5 times because I'm really old and get vertigo while watching TV.
Right. That scene is like De Palma put him on like a turntable and the camera on a turntable to like make it even more disorientating. He dwells on it for like a full 5 minutes. It feels like
I was out. I was just like, oh, it's just like, remember how when you were a kid and you would be like, I'm having fun, and you'd like roll down a hill or like spin on a carousel or something like that, and you'd be like, wee,
I'm kind of dizzy. Whoa, this is weird. If
I turn around too fast, 90 degrees, 90, a quarter spin, I'm like, like, so this part of this movie, I was just like, I think I'm gonna hurl. And then Garth came by and he was like, if you're gonna spew into this. But at this point, the movie takes on this dreamlike quality for me where I'm not sure what's exactly real and what's not, and I love it. There's some dream sequences, there's some real sequences that seem like they could still be dreams. And
they use like the super soft focus on like a lot of stuff to make it feel like dreamlike and wistful or whatever. So I mean the whole film is kind of like that. It feels like heightened, it's not like a reflection of reality basically, but it's a reflection of how reality feels internally to teenagers. And so you drop the bucket of blood on her, and then the bucket falls off and apparently kills Tommy. I think it bonks him right in the head. They're all laughing at her, and then Carrie, I guess we haven't mentioned that also, by the way, she has telekinetic powers. That's kind of important.
That's been established throughout the movie. Yeah, she's like, I've read about it, Mama. It's called telekinesis, and there are dozens of us.
It's telekinesis, Kyle. So she shuts the doors and burns the fucking building down with everyone in it, which is the most satisfying ending that could possibly happen.
At its core, this is a revenge movie, and it is so fucking satisfying. You're like, because she just sees red, It's just like everyone will die. Everyone. I don't care. I have nothing left inside me that is able to, to be nice. And this is so metal. Like, I was just like, the last 20 minutes of this movie could just be set to like hardcore death metal, and you'd be like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is fucking awesome. And yeah, I mean, this is like, I don't know how many revenge movies there were before this, but
lots.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is not the original revenge movie. It's a whole genre that stretches back.
How long?
Probably to the beginning of film. I mean, revenge stories are pretty standard.
That's true. That is true. But I will say, tentpole revenge. Like, this right. May be like, I don't know.
One of the most satisfying revenges, too. Just because it's instantaneous. It's not like, something happened. It's not like Kill Bill where something happened years ago and they're meticulously planning. It's like, no, the meticulous planning was on the bully's part, and the revenge is instantaneous, which is fun. So she kills everyone. Apparently, this is where a lot of changes are between the book and the film, how it ends, and Stephen King really likes the ending that Brian De Palma came up with. But she leaves the prom. She kills everyone there. Chris and Barbarino get away.
Hey, Barbarino.
And then...
hey, Barbarino.
Bob.
Bob. Yeah, Sleepaway Camp is on Tubi, too.
So they're like driving, and Chris is going to try to hit Carrie with their car, which is like, also straight up murder.
They're
And then
yeah,
Carrie
they're
just
so horny on it. They're like, yeah, we're gonna kill her, and it's like, Jesus Christ.
So Carrie kills them, and then she goes home to have a nice soothing bath, and then her mom, like hiding behind the door, like decides to stab her in the back. Literally.
Yeah, like in the kidney, dude. She's like, and you're like, wow, this bitch never had any love for her own daughter. She's like, I should have killed myself before having you, and just like, I should have killed you too. And you're like, oh my God. Like,
because her description of it is a rape, but she was married at the time, and it sounds like it was on their honeymoon, so it's not like it was traumatic for her, but it sounds like it wasn't I don't know. It wasn't like a even in Christianity terms, like having sex in marriage is not sinful. I mean, that's like the only place to have sex is within marriage for having kids, which is the description of the only time that she had sex, apparently.
it's kind of like a core tenet of Christianity in the Bible, you know? It's kind of like, really, we got some big bullet points. This is one of them.
Right. So anyways, and then Carrie at the end kills her mom, a la Saint Sebastian with a bunch of knives, using telekinesis.
But then the most fucking bizarre thing happens. The house turns all like,
Yeah, it goes full poltergeist.
and it's like it starts crumpling in on itself,
Yeah,
and
it
like
sucks into the ground even.
lighting on fire, and like Carrie takes refuge in the room that, you know, that she's made to do penance in when she's bad. And it's very like this, very dreamlike, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? This earth is swallowing. It's insinuated by her mother that she is a puppet of the devil, and you're kind of like, is the devil reclaiming the house? Like, is he like foreclosing on the mortgage right now? Like, what's happening? And then afterwards, like in Sue's dream, like there's just coal where the house was,
Right.
and a for sale sign that says, "Here lies, you know, down in hell."
For sale sign in the shape of a cross, by the way.
Yeah, down in hell lies Carrie, below here. And then the best fucking jump scare. This scared the fuck out of me. I was like, oh no! Like, when she's like kneeling down, when Sue is kneeling down next to the for sale sign, and Carrie's hand reaches up and grabs her, I was like, fuck! I fell for it. Like, this is every Friday the 13th fucking jump scare you can imagine, but like really well done, man.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's a great, satisfying ending, scary, and like stands the test of time. And, you know, apparently, like, this was out of the blue a success. Like, no one expected this to be successful. Brian De Palma was coming off of a movie called Obsession, which didn't do good in theaters, and I think they offered him another movie, but it went to someone else famous, and then he got Carrie. And no one, like the studio, I think United Artists, like, it didn't fit into their style. Like, United Artists, it's not quite like what we associate with like A24, but it is more, you know, highfalutin. So the other films that came out this year with Carrie were Rocky and Network. So they made big movies that were, you know, more, you know, intellectual or whatever. So they didn't really care about this movie, and they probably left De Palma alone for the most part.
Rocky was intellectual? Wait, what's Network? The Network?
Network.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's a really famous. It's strangely prescient about the media in modern times.
Oh, interesting.
That's the one where at the end he's like, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to stand for it anymore, when they're yelling it out. Anyways, so like there are more like auteur movies, there's like social commentary movies, and then Carrie's just like this throwaway horror movie.
It's not. I don't think. I don't.
I mean,
think,
to them, but like
Right.
it became so successful, it like exceeded all expectations that there were multiple copycats after Carrie. There's like a swath of teenagers with telekinesis. It was like a subgenre for a couple of years because of Carrie.
a very Stephen King-y sort of. I mean, look. I'm not a. If you listen to the podcast, you know where I stand on Stephen King. I think he's a fabulous writer. I'm just not a fan personally of his stuff. But so I don't. I only know about Stephen King what is been made into film. I just can't get through his books. I just don't get where he's coming from with like powers and how people get them and what they are, like, and why he finds it interesting.
Well, it's all, I mean, I think canon is like, it's all The Shining, you know. It's basically, in different books it's called The Shining versus like, you know, Pushing, or like I think every like supernatural power around telekinesis, or even in the Dead Zone with like the ability to touch people, like it's all The Shining basically, and it explains it a little bit in Doctor Sleep. I mean, that's one of the few that I've read where it basically tells you that it's the power, but it manifests in many different ways in different people.
Yeah, it's a little bit like midi-chlorians. Yeah, it's like we have a thing. It's the Force. It can be, now we explain it with midi-chlorians, and it's like, okay, like it's a little bit of your own fart sniffing, but it's also a little bit of your own universe. So okay, fine.
But hey,
yeah.
I mean, it's worked for him. Like it's not undeniable. I mean,
Yeah.
Carrie, Firestarter, The Shining, like Stephen King can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Anyway, so who would like this, or who would you recommend this to?
Okay, so I think this is such a fabulous movie. I wish we'd have gotten a female's opinion on this. And really, I truly do blame this squarely on Zencastr. Fuck you and your shitty platform, Zencastr. Because we just have too many technical difficulties to risk getting another person on here. But I will say, I'm very interested to know how this strikes our female audience, how important this is, and what it's like to go, you know, through puberty as a woman. Must be, I mean, it's traumatic no matter who you are, but you know, there's something especially, I don't know, in this movie it's shown as gruesome.
Yeah, and tell us what it's like in those female locker rooms, like slowly and in detail.
No, seriously, it's, so many people describe it as beautiful. So many people describe it as also being like terrifying or scary, not knowing what's happening to your body. I mean, puberty is a confusing time for anyone, but the way this movie depicts, like, not just femininity, but in all the good aspects, but definitely in like the poisonous, toxic, horrifying aspects, like these girls are so horrible to her, and it's just it's a slice of high school, and it does it really well. Like, it does it really well. I don't know.
Makes you realize how unfair puberty is for women versus men. It's like, for boys, it's like, oh, my dick gets bigger, and it feels way better, and I start coming. It's fucking amazing. And then girls, it's like, oh, this is when your body starts attacking you, and you bleed out of orifices. in super inconvenient ways, and your emotions go wild. Like, high five, man. Woo!
Rock solid dicks, bro. I'm up for days.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a must-see for anyone that's a fan of horror. Like, it's an important film. Like, I think this is one of the few where there were Academy Award nominations. I know Sissy Spacek got an award nomination for acting, and someone else got one for supporting role. It might have been what's her name, the girl that plays Sue. I'm not quite sure, but so I mean it was recognized and like as an important film at the time, and so go see it. And yeah, women call in, leave us a voicemail at 682-253-4468 and let us know what this movie means to you and how accurate it is in the experience of going through your first menses and high school.
And anybody who grew up going to high school in the 70s, like, I'm interested to know what that was like, particularly. So call in about that as well. Like, let us know how this is.
They didn't have phones with TikTok on them, like, where they were just all looking at them all day. All they had to do was, like, look at each other and torture each other. So, it was a different time. They
just had wads of tampons sitting in their back pocket ready to fucking pounce.
Okay, so let's move on. Speaking of voicemail, let's move on to horror movie whores. Okay, horror movie horrors. If you didn't know, you can call and leave us voicemail at 682-253-4468.
How far back are we going? What's the dates
November
on
22nd.
Shit!
So it's a while. We'll see how many we get through before we rage quit. Okay, here we go.
Florida boys, it's the Chef the Freak, Dick Man Creed. I hope you're both doing well. Y'all listen to the After Pop for Smile, and you guys are playing some fucking wild-ass violin music. I would definitely want to cue that shit up if I had the balls to defend my home from an intruder. Alexa, cue up creepy fucking violin music while I go ham on a dude. What soundtrack from what movie would you like your life to be played during your life, like your everyday life? Like what kind of soundtrack would you want to listen to? I'm gonna go with the synth stuff from It Follows, because that shit's a vibe all on its own. Anyway, love you boys. Take care. And but I'll talk to you before Thanksgiving. Have a fucking happy Thanksgiving.
We had
a happy thanks.
We had a fucking happy thanks. Thanks, Dick Man Crease. Yeah.
I mean, my answer is Indiana Jones.
What was the question?
It was like, what soundtrack would you want playing to your life?
To your life?
Yeah. I'd say Indiana Jones, not because I'm adventurous or full of adventure. I think it would just be really ironic to watch a middle-aged fat man sit in front of a computer screen all day with super adventurous music. Dun 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 dun. Click. Dun 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 dun. Click 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 click. Send. Dun 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 dun.
Oh man, yeah, no, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, I guess I'd have to go with Boogie Nights just because it's a fucking stellar soundtrack,
Yeah.
Like, you can't beat the soundtrack of Boogie Nights.
Yeah, it's pretty stellar.
I want to come up with something clever, but instead I'll just go with quality,
Right.
You can't.
Okay, next caller.
Yo, it's Mike from California again. I just wanted to call and apologize because I accidentally said the chick on Terrifier 2 was hot, which she was, but then I saw she has pronouns in her Instagram profile, which means she's been hit in the head with either a baseball bat or a spear. Either one apparently did the trick, so fuck her.
Whoa.
Keep up the great work, guys. Tell me to respect.
Is that Mike from California?
Good shot. Doesn't do anything.
So
Neither
first
am I.
of all,
But you do you. Goodbye.
fucker. Yes, happily I would. But if that keeps you from falling in love with a gorgeous woman, then that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, what are you, gay? There's nothing wrong with being gay. It just seems, I mean, we accept.
Right.
It just seems like, Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I mean, it is a weird dichotomy going on there to have your pronouns in your profile and be the star of Terrifier 2. That's a little bit problematic, as people might say today.
Yeah.
A movie that fully advocates rape and violence against women 100%.
I just say you do you,
Boo.
and
Yeah.
I have confidence that the marking of your pronouns is not. I mean, that's why I think it's just funny because, do you really think in 5 years anyone is going to be doing that? And
What?
maybe this won't age well, but do you think that that's going to be a thing long term?
Do I think that people will list their pronouns long term?
Right.
That's a good question. I have it's very hard to tell.
Because I mean, it's being put in digital profiles and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, so
And,
maybe it'll
email.
Yeah, but
sign
I
offs.
feel like it's not like conversations are going to start like, "Hey, I'm Bryce Hanson, he, him. Just nice to meet you. What's your pronouns?" It's just not.
Well, for those of us who don't, who don't present the way we feel, it is helpful. I list mine, and I start sentences that way. So to me, I think it might last because I would prefer it to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you think it's just too awkward to last?
Yeah, I don't think it's. Yeah. Moving on. Another one from Mike.
Hey boys, Mike from Steel City. I was giving you a call back. I want to answer David's question. I am a Patreon subscriber. I'm at the $25 tier, and I'm trying to help you guys out the best I can. I wanted to comment on the Smile review. I have such a hard time with movies that are psychiatric. Being a therapist myself and having worked in a psych hospital, the first scene pissed me off so much I had a hard time with the rest of the movie. They are in that room. They have the big rubber chairs like you would. They make it appear like it's safe, and they're really trying to present that image, but then have a glass vase in the middle on the table. Never happen. It would absolutely never happen. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And she's the worst doctor. She just stood there and watched him bleed out. I don't get it. There's a lot of things in those movies that are just inaccurate. It wouldn't take anything to consult with somebody who has some base knowledge of mental health. And how do you get the chairs right and then have a base? Working in the psych hospital, there was a woman who was a bloodletter, right? So she enjoyed the feeling of cutting herself, letting the blood run out of her. It gives you kind of a feeling. And she was unbelievable on what she could get into the hospital. She would have catheters in her stomach rolls. I mean, it was crazy the amount of searching that we had to do. But once we got her in there was a time where I was on observation with her. She stepped onto a table, stepped up onto a chair, up onto a table, punched out a light, grabbed a glass, and had cut herself within 3 seconds. So you have to take a lot of precautions. You can't protect people in every single way. I had another guy who, if you've ever seen the doors in a psych hospital, there's the regular door, and then there's an inner door for somebody in case they barricade the door. So this guy kind of barricaded the door. He wasn't letting anybody in. We opened the inside door, and we were trying to kind of push the door in and remove the stuff that he had barricaded himself in with. And he opened the door and started swinging it back and forth. And the inner door closed on his fingers, lopped them right off. And so we were picking up 4 fingers off the floor, put them on ice, and ran him to surgery. So, some wild stories I got for you, but I don't want to blow my load yet. I'll make sure that they're applicable to the movies. You guys take care. It's the day before Thanksgiving. I hope you have a good holiday, and I'll talk to you soon.
Holy
oh my
shit.
God.
Mike from
kind of buried the lead there, Mike.
Yeah, holy fuck. Dude. Keep calling.
Oh my God.
We got to watch more psychological movies so that Mike can keep calling in.
I will say... Okay,
it is crazy if you know anyone that works like at hospitals or in like situations where they're exposed to psychiatric patients, and you realize like, oh, this is a whole different world that I don't know about.
Oh yeah,
it's like my brother-in-law was a cop, or no, before he was a cop, he was like a security guard at a hospital, and he said like, oh yeah, we have these spit hoods, to just put over people so they can't spit on you, but they all learn really quickly that you just like suck it into your face and get it really wet, and then you can just blow through it, and all the spittle particles are like spewed out from the spit hood. So you got to hood them twice. And it's just said in just such like throwaway, like, oh, this is just life for me. Jesus Christ.
I will say in response to Mike's criticism of Smile, the thing that took him right out of it, it's one of these things. I get it, first of all. Anytime I see a chainsaw being used, I'm intimately familiar with chainsaws, and I go, there's a problem here. And, so there's no... The answer is, the reason the vase was there is they needed some... Right. They needed some way, it's either like the director was like, yeah, but we it needs to, I mean, Mike, you're a smart guy. You get it. It's just, I get why it's bothersome, but holy shit. It seems like the answer to the barricading issue would be just to make a door that swings out instead of in. Why not just put the fucking hinges on the other side? I don't know. It's just carpentry thoughts
here.
Just door hanging.
All right, he calls again.
Hey guys, I almost forgot. Mike from the Steel City. I was listening to the dash cam video, and I saw the movie before I knew much about Annie Hardy, and I didn't like the movie as much because of some of the stuff that she was saying. Like, it was just abrasive. Like, the stuff in the beginning where she was so obnoxious to people, it made me care less about her. And so when you were talking about how, like, where's the line from her, I was glad that she said, like, the director was making her do that. I don't understand that decision. Like, she's wild enough. She's got enough personality. She could be, all over the place. And you start to like her over the movie. Like, why do that? I just don't fucking get it. I think it was a stupid decision. I think the movie was great. Also love that Desert. I keep mentioning it in the comments and stuff, but I just really love the idea of live streaming. And I think what's so funny is that they do such a good job with the comments that people leave.
Yeah.
About like kill yourself, like watch out. Like, I just think it's very accurate to what streamers put up with. The love and the hate. All right, guys. Love you. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird decision because, like, on one hand, it's kind of commenting on some streamers being super annoying and toxic and abrasive on purpose.
Yeah.
So that they can get more views,
Yeah, that's a big part of live stream. Like, being a live streamer, like a person who walks around, like, that's a huge part of it. It's just being so toxic.
Right. Yeah, and like, I mean, all those, there's a whole subgenre of like prankers that are like not really pranking people, they're literally just harassing people and like doing hate crimes as a prank.
Yeah, it's just a prank, bro. There is an added element to this whole thing, which is Rob Savage, the director of Dashcam, was dating Annie Hardy throughout.
Yeah.
And she, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she has expressed in interviews and whatnot that he really used her and then just ditched her, like kind of fed her to the wolves, right. made her this caricature of herself with her own name. And then when people started coming after her for the character that she portrayed in a fictionalized movie, he was like, hey guys, be nice to Annie. She's had a hard life. And I really want to get her back on the show because she's just a wonderful person.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it made the movie spicy, and there's a certain part where like it kind of creates her actions more believable because she is so not concerned with what other people think of her. Like, some of the decisions and reckless things that she does like feel realistic because of it. But yeah, it's. I agree with you that they didn't have to change anything about Annie Hardy to make it compelling and like really watchable.
Yeah.
All right, here we go from.
Hey, it's Robert the Farter. So I was just wondering if you guys had seen Jacob's Ladder, 1990. I think that's a great psychological horror movie. If you have not seen it. And also, I just had a question for you guys. What are the 3 scariest movies, both of you, Bryce and David, what are the 3 scariest movies you guys have seen? Like, it could be movies you've seen at the theater or just movies you've seen at home, but just the movies that scared you the most. Anyways, Robert Farter.
Thanks, Robert.
Question. I've seen Jacob's Ladder probably about 2 years ago now, and it was fine. I mean, I don't really, it wasn't spectacularly outstanding to me. Have you seen it?
I haven't watched it. I've seen clips from it. It seems like one of those movies where it's like goes so over the top that I would feel like desensitized watching it because I'd feel like, oh, this is fake, and like it's the same thing with like, was that directed by Cronenberg?
No.
Or was that David Lynch? It feels like a David Lynch movie.
I don't think it is.
But anyways, like it feels like one of those movies where it's like so heightened where I can just like my suspension of disbelief is completely compromised. It's a really hard question answering what's the scariest movies. I'm not sure I can come up with 3, but I know in the theater or while I was watching them, Blair Witch, if you're in the theater at the screening where it was like, and you're exposed to the marketing, I'm hard pressed to think of anything of where I was more tense throughout. Same thing with Paranormal Activity. Like if you're bought into it, like just the feeling of dread from just the sound. But yeah, I think, I don't know. It's hard to say because it works different for different people, but those ones were probably the ones I was like most on edge and like jumping.
Yeah. So to answer your question, first of all about Jacob's Ladder, it was directed by Adrian Lyne.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah, no. But Tim Robbins kind of looks like Cronenberg a little bit. Anyway, scariest movies, yeah, absolutely. Paranormal Activity was probably like Paranormal Activity 1, 2, and 3. They're just the exact right thing for me. They're just so perfectly perfect. Yeah, I had wonderful experiences watching those in theaters. Although I will say, Hereditary was very, very scary for me. Definitely one of them is Aterrados or Terrified from 2017, Argentinian film. Woo-hoo-hoo! That got me good. That got me real good. I was hard to watch. I was like so scared, but yeah. So I'd say those. Wreck, maybe Wreck.
I'm going to apologize to Robert the Farter. We got a lot of calls to get through, so I'm going to skip a couple.
No, don't get through them all. We'll just make an episode of it later. Just don't skip them. Don't skip them. I don't want to waste them.
Hey, good morning, guys. It's me, your boy Manny. I just want to give you guys a quick call and say happy Thanksgiving, and just wanted to say that I'm really grateful that from the time I came back to listen to you guys, I'm just really happy to, hear your guys' voices again. You guys were always my, favorite podcast, and the time I took off, I was just trying to, do better for myself, and then when I came back, I was just happy to hear you guys keep going and getting better and all that, so I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving, guys, and I'm glad that you guys are just doing so good, and I wish the best for the upcoming years, as a whole movie talk. I hope it grows and gets bigger and everything. I love you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving with each other or with your guys' family, but much love for the HMC family, so I love you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Goodbye, guys.
Dude, Manny out here doing the fucking Lord's work. You seen this? Manny coming through stealing people's phones and putting up reviews on Apple Podcasts for us. He's like, hey guys, I'm just out here stealing people's iPhones, putting up reviews for HMT 5 stars, baby. It's like, Manny, you're the fucking best, bro. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I love you, buddy.
Yeah. By the way, thank you, Manny. He sent us some gifts. I'm thankful for Manny. He sent us some Christmas gifts. I haven't shown this to you, David.
Oh, baby.
We'll do a little unboxing here. So
do it.
We got 2 boxes. One is has Alien.
Oh, dude, that's like from the fucking 90s, bro.
And then we've got The Crow Blu-ray.
Oh, damn.
And then a stack of comic books that are.
Is that
these
Conan?
ones have Godzilla, I think. So So there's that one, and then there's an accompanying one that has a different stack of comics. A Predator toy. Hold
on, baby.
Hold on,
dude. I got this friend out here, who's got the biggest, most badass Predator tattoo I've ever seen on his thigh. It is astonishing. He's got an amazing tattoo of Predator face. Damn.
This is from Predator 2 action figure.
Manny.
And then we got a Pig Blu-ray.
Oh, nice. That's
and
Nick
another
Cage.
stack of comic books with Predator comics. So, I forgot to even tell you about that, but we got this a little while ago.
Thank you, Manny.
Thank you, Manny.
Killing it.
Which one do you want, David?
Predator.
For me to send up to you.
Yeah, Predator. No, I'll probably be down sometime
are you?
soon. Well, hopefully. I think I got some medical stuff that needs to go on down there. I got.
Oh, you couldn't take care of it over the phone?
Yeah.
Join us on the Afterpod. We'll talk more about David's experience. Anyways, thank you, Manny. We love you. Thanks for the support. Thanks for those 5-star reviews.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you guys want to be nice to the podcast? You want to support us? Steal your mom's iPhone and drop us a nice review on there. Here's Manny's review on Apple Podcast. HMT is the title. It says, "Hey guys, it's me, Manny. I have a goal to take people's iPhones and that I know and give you guys that 5-star reviews that y'all deserve because I love you guys. The podcast, the community, it's just the best, Manny."
Thanks,
yeah.
Manny. Maybe not leave that in the review. You could probably just comment that to us.
Yeah, just be like, these guys are the fucking best. We love that. Yeah, you know. Love you, buddy. Such
okay.
a nice guy.
Next up.
What's up, queers? This is your girl, Glittercore. Just calling on Thanksgiving Day. Just got home from work and wanted to say that I'm thankful for you every day, including today. And if you think I'm not watching the third installment of Thanksgiving, well, I am. So hold on to your buttholes. Nice tits, bitch.
She has another one.
This is your girl Glittercore again. So I'm like 15 minutes in on Thanksgiving 3, and it's pretty terrible. I don't smoke weed, so I'm struggling here. I thought there would be more tits in it, and there's so far not as many tits in the first 15 minutes as I would expect and want. So I might be turning it off soon. We'll see. I might sacrifice so you guys can get the full review, but so far it's pretty bad. All right, love y'all. Bye.
Sounds like she might be a couple drinks in on that second call too.
How dare you? Glittercore is one of the most lovely people we know, and man, yeah, love you too, girl. She's been supporting us for so long, and she's just so sweet and beautiful, and I mean, and she's working on herself. You know, like it's really like if y'all aren't in therapy, everybody just get in therapy. Just just as a PSA. You know, if you love horror movies as much as we do, you need therapy a little bit. You just need to admit that about yourself. Even you, Mike, from California.
I'm trying to scramble to find her sound drop, but I can't find it. I've got big tits and a tiny vagina.
Yeah, well, we could play it out with that.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Glittercore.
I think it's time to call it. This is a long one.
Okay, one more. We'll just do one more.
Okay.
We've got a couple. Okay, yeah. Then it gets into some longer ones, but we'll do this last one. It's only a minute long.
Hey guys, it's Tired Sandwich again. Not mailman Rick or Nick or whatever you called him, Bryce.
Okay.
I am a mailman, but I am not that mailman. So yeah, kind of upsetty spaghetti about that. I'm just saying. So I was watching the Barbarian one the other day, and I just, I watched Barbarian again with my girlfriend, and I just don't get it, guys. I don't get why you guys like it so much. It wasn't a bad movie by any means, but it's not scary. It didn't get me at any point, and I don't know. I don't know. I just don't get it. Try and explain it to me, please. Love you guys. Have a good one, and big bear hug from your buddy Tired Sandwich.
Tired Sandwich. We have a whole review to explain to you what we liked about it. We did that.
Yeah, we took about an hour and a half.
Yeah, go listen to that.
Check it out. I mean, I don't want to sound condescending, but if you don't like Barbarian, you just don't like having a good time. That was a fun movie.
It was fun. And, really at its core, that movie really distills what I want in a horror movie, which is like a deep dark pit that you don't know what's in there, but there's fucked up shit in there, and we're going to go on an adventure to see what it is. There's this element of just what's in the box, and you don't know what it is, but it's fucked up, and it keeps getting more fucked up, and it's scary and spooky, and I like it. Yeah. What about you?
Why I like Barbarian?
Yeah.
I like any. think I like any art form that starts out as one thing and ends as another thing. Like whether it's a song or a movie, like where it's got twists and turns and like surprises me and is unique. And Barbarian is definitely one of those where it sets itself up as like, this is a, intellectual like thriller. This is like on the level of like a, what you would mark as a thriller. And then it goes like full retired at the end where it's, no, this is now a goofy woman monster that wants you to suck her breasts and chases after you.
But it's also satire. It's also like the darkest version of comedy that you can possibly get to. It's so fucking funny and terrible all at once. It's great. It's exactly what I would hope a veteran Whitest Kids You Know member would come up with. It's just so fucked up.
So that's horror movie whore. So thank you so much for everyone for listening. Again, please share the podcast with a friend. Be like Manny. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and steal your friends' iPhones to do the same. If you want to support the show, there's many ways to do it. Supporting our sponsors, supporting us directly on Patreon, or buying swag off of our Horror Movie Talk shop. Christmas is coming up. I'm not sure if this...
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Chrysler.
Christmas.
Go there, and again, like, you'll get lots of perks on Patreon if you want to join us there. Special thanks to our new Patreon subscribers, and we'll see you on the flippity flop.
You guys, we love you. Have a wonderful week, and don't be mean to people like these kids were mean to Carrie. That was mean.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Good day, sir. Good day, sir. You lose. You get nothing. Is that a raincoat? Yes, it is.
I just took a stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face.
Wow, that didn't sound good.